Hey guys, Jacqueline here with Zenith Home Loans. Thank you for joining me for another TCA Tuesday, Total Cost Analysis Tuesday. So what I wanted to showcase today is just some alternative ways that we can get creative with our interest rates, since those are still on the higher end of things. They're definitely starting to come down, which is good news, but we don't know how much further they're going to come down or when we're going to see that refinance opportunity down the road. So the 2-1 buy downs and seller paid buy downs are definitely still a great way to go for most clients. But that being said, with the market starting to turn and we're approaching the spring season, we're starting to see a little bit more hesitation from sellers, or a little bit lack of wanting to move forward with seller paid concessions. So I had a couple of additional options to put together for you guys so that we can kind of take a look at some additional options that clients might have. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with you so we can check these options out. So what I have for you is a $500,000 purchase price. You're just stuck with a simple 5% down to keep things easy for you. This is assuming a single family home, a 740 credit score. So if we do a seller paid buy down, that gets us to the initial rate at 4.625. It would adjust in year one after 12 months to 5.625, and then we go to 6.625. Then the goal within that timeline is for us to do a refinance to try to get that rate down. That gets our monthly payment at $29.50.49 all in, so including taxes, insurance, and mortgage insurance. Our cash to close is right around $34,000 because we're assuming the seller is going to pay that upfront cost for us for the escrow, and it's a monthly payment savings of about $557 over an option that doesn't have buy down points. So that seller paid concession, it's about 2.5% of our purchase price. And so that comes in at $10,842. So that's how much we would need to negotiate from our seller. Okay. So in option 2 here, there's also an option for a seller paid 3-2-1 buy down. So what this does is exactly what the 2-1 buy down is, but now we're going to buy it down 3% versus just 2%. So that would give us a starting rate of 3.625. That lowers our payment to $26.74. Still need the same amount at closing, but the kicker here is we need a lot more money from the seller. So this may or may not be an option, but it is an option that's out there. So we want to make sure you guys know about it. That cost to be about $21,329 in that scenario, which ends up being about 4.5% of our purchase price. So depending on how motivated our seller is, how long that property's been sitting on the market, things of that nature, again, may or may not be an option. There's still always the option to offer a little bit more in purchase price than what they're listing at to get those seller concessions so that we can kind of include those in there. And then as a reminder, if you negotiate for any concessions, you don't have to specify that it's for a 2-1 buy down. You can just tell the seller you want X amount of dollars in concessions. What your seller, or excuse me, what your buyer does with those funds is really none of the seller's business. So if we decide to use it to pay all of our closing costs instead of buying down the rate, we can do that. If we want to put part of it towards buying down the rate and part of it towards closing costs, we can do that too. So lots of options there. So on that note, if we also have the option to do a borrower paid 2-1 buy down. So we have one investor that will allow us to do this. And this is a good option. I set it up so that it was trying to keep the buyers out of pocket as low as possible. So in this scenario, we would switch from a 5% down to a 3% down loan. So we need to make sure they qualify with that conventional 3% down option. The interest rate would be a little bit higher because now we're at a higher loan to value. So now we're at 97% versus 95%. We can essentially have the buyer pay for those upfront costs for the escrows. And so that puts us at a rate of 4.875. Our monthly payment's $30.78, which isn't that far off of the 2-1 buy down paid for by the seller. And our cash to close is almost identical. We're just off by about $2,000 here. So this is a really good option too. And then just for comparison's sake, I did a 5% down option with no buy down. The interest rate we go from 4.875 to 6.49. Cash out of pocket's about the same, but payment increases by $500. So that really is a good use of our buyer's funds if that scenario makes sense for us. So I'm going to click on more info here, and I'm going to go into our closing costs, and I'm just going to show you where my 2-1 buy down escrow. So that's $10,842 in that example. Okay. And so what this money does is it goes and it sits in that escrow account, kind of like your taxes and your insurance, to cover the difference in interest that the investor would have received had we been paying on the higher rate. So we're basically just prepaying the interest, and then it goes into that escrow account. The benefit here is that if we refinance in 2 years or 1 year, if there's, let's just say $5,000 left over in this account, the money just doesn't disappear. So the money would go to pay down the balance of the loan. So in 12 months, if we had an opportunity to refinance, we would be able to lower this loan amount by an additional $5,000. So we'd have a little bit more loan to value there. The buyer wouldn't be bringing any additional funds to closing, and we're still able to use 100% of the costs that we were able to negotiate from our seller when we set all of this up. So we're still anticipating refinance opportunities again sometime in the next 12 to 18 months, 24 months on the long end. You usually need to have made at least 6 payments on the mortgage before you qualify for a refinance. So that doesn't mean you should wait, because obviously we don't know for sure when rates are going to change. And a lot of things can happen in the market between now and 6 months from now. So if the right property has presented itself, you should absolutely take advantage. Just making sure that you've got your pre-approval and all those things set up. But hopefully this gives you guys some good information on just some additional ways we can utilize some of those buy down strategies and get you into the right property, because we want to make sure that we're always putting our best foot forward. Sometimes that means not asking for any concessions from the seller. We don't want to lose out on that opportunity either. If there's still some ways that we can kind of finagle the loan to be set up in a way that makes sense for the consumer. So let me know what questions this creates for you. As always, I'm available to help talk through specific scenarios for you or for your clients. And I hope you have a really great day. Thanks so much.